balance patch. Yes.
Shout outs to production for hooking me up with the right Google Doc settings to make sure that we've got dark mode going on for all of our stuff. But we're going to kick things off with probably one of the biggest things the community's been talking about over the past couple of days. Ro, do you want to give us a preface before we get into
So they're shifting a lot of the starters.
No, I just want to own up to my own mistakes. I was the one that made this item. And yeah, I based it on some SMITE 1 numbers. Should have looked at the SMITE 2 numbers.
They moved their cams.
So there was a big gap between this starter and the other starters. It was also made pretty quickly. We like to ship fast.
Cams.
But I'm glad everybody's enjoyed it. It's made a lot more viable crit play styles, and it's really
and they nerf how do I type this so it sounds nice?
We apply some balance changes to it. So
whatever.
Decent shift overall. I would say it is a nerf, but it also just kind of a shift in identity. It'll stay crit, but we want to angle it a little bit towards attack speed and try to balance the gold gains. That's the plan here.
Yeah, this is live
so
tuba.
Decrease the attack power again.
Okay.
Down to 15. Adding 10%.
I'm going to turn them down a little bit because I want to talk over them.
From the passive, so it just feels sometimes you.
But I don't want them to be too quiet.
Otherwise, it just felt bad if you didn't get the passive.
Okay.
So
the Gilded Arrow shift.
You just get more.
I'll have to see what they do with Cowl and with Death's Toll, but the problem is this is still just the best starter. So unless Cowl and Death's Toll get buffed, you're still golden Gilded Arrow, unless you need the Boombas get to lane
but we
quickly.
Sharpshooter as well. That's the upgrade. Again, the power reduced, increasing the attack speed just a little bit, just to make it more powerful because you are investing that extra gold in it, and you can't get it until level 20. An important thing is now it only applies the increased basic attack damage when hitting gods. We were seeing fire giants and things like that die pretty quickly. You always get that increase.
Only applies in hitting gods. Okay, that's a good shift. That's a good shift. Decreased basic attack damage bonus from 15 to 10%. Passive gold gains from kills and assists are increased by 5%. Basic attack damage increased by 10% when hitting a god.
Most of them with 4 to 5 power potions. So we can kind of throw those out a little bit.
Okay.
They're always going to be crazy.
It's definitely a lot worse. 40 basic attack power is very low.
It's like, oh yeah, this is happening all game. It's like, you know, and then you look and it's like, this person is 40-0 in a 60-minute game.
If I'm talking, am I still like a good amount louder than them?
We are tuning it down a bit just because it was a bit too strong. Later in this patch as well, I guess you can see it on the screen already, but we are bringing them up as well.
Hiding it,
okay.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Let me toggle the cams. Spoilers. Here we go.
Nice.
So
Cam's gone.
The hunter
Leather Cowl buff, removed attack speed.
Carries
together in power because we ran the numbers for balance on the current all starters right now, and it was apparent that Leather Cowl, Hunter's Cowl, Death's Embrace, and Death's Toll were actually at the bottom of all starters, not just starters. So we wanted to bring those up, bring Sharpshooter down. It's almost inevitable that we feel like we might have to do some more balance to Boomba's Dagger as well, because we see that creeping.
I guess this is technically a buff, because I'd rather have 5% lifesteal than 5% attack speed.
Just so that they feel like
but it's
you have
kind of irrelevant.
One is just the best, right?
This is only 10 strength on this item.
And that's always difficult with hunters.
This item is 10 strength.
We had that problem forever where it's like, oh, whatever the highest damage
lifesteal sucks. You're so dumb.
I'm buying that no matter what, right?
It's a numbers game, right?
Right. If there's a highest damage build and it's good on a specific
that
god building that
10% lifesteal aura.
We want to try to bring that together. We want to.
And the attack speed aura is now 30%. So 5% lifesteal does no longer gives attack speed.
As well
just to you.
Kills and assists. That's kind of vague because
this item is insane.
A lot of things are assists, like
it's irrelevant in a game. It is not irrelevant. You are dumb.
Like that when you're around it.
I've tested it a lot. It is very good.
Aladdin's not that you would buy this on Aladdin, but Aladdin's Wish, for example, there are a lot of different gold gains. So we're just specifying kills and assists only.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about Leather Cowl and Hunter's Cowl, but getting a buff there, removing the attack.
I think Hunter's Cowl is actually better late game than Sharpshooter's, but Leather Cowl is still just not very good compared
Hunter's Cowl,
to that.
Increasing the strength, removing the attack speed, and adding lifesteal like with the base.
Now we go to the Anubis? No, because it's no intelligence.
Aura and adding a 10% lifesteal aura.
For the aura and support? No.
So Leather Cowl already pretty good on its own, but lifesteal on top of that. Sharpshooter Gilded had lifesteal for a little while there, and people felt that was really strong. So we've moved that onto Leather Cowl essentially in the aura as well for Hunter's Cowl. So really great for your team.
I feel like backline ADC with Hunter's Cowl and then like a Zeus or a Poseidon mid would be broken. You would just go to the objective and just kill it instantly.
Yeah,
feels good.
Great for your team. Yeah.
All right, we are
no, they didn't.
Right
Tuba.
Along. Another topic of discussion. Let's talk about mid lane. Intelligence-focused items, Ro.
Yeah.
Before we get into all the changes,
Soul Reader buff.
Dude,
this item is still terrible. Don't build it.
If we think back to Vegas, there was pretty much one problem.
Deso change.
That conduit into Soul Gem into Gemma Focus, and we did a little bit to address that in the start of OB2. By bringing that build down. But
so nothing is changing with your starters. You're still going your same starter.
Alternative build to go for.
No matter what you're building.
Tried to buff
Reaver's irrelevant
items,
still.
They didn't really land.
Deso is viable again.
We always want to make every item viable somewhere.
Mirrodin is.
In general, we felt we had to bring up
better
power or intellect power just quite a bit on starter items.
Wait, is this their only mage buff?
And Sands of Time.
Are these their only mage buffs?
Getting intelligence buffs, and then
because now it's Glorious Pridwin.
Getting a decrease in cost, and then Spear of Desolation. We are adjusting the recipe, but we're going to be adding 10 cooldown rate.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, Staff of Mirrodin.
Pridwin is actually going to be OP. Pridwin is going to be OP.
I really like Mirrodin, all the interactions we get. I hope we see more of it because it's fun.
It's just a fun item,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. So. Hopefully, we should see some more
mage gods aren't the problem, though. The mage items are the problem.
After these changes, if not, we're going to continue to keep an eye on it and make changes, right? Kind of the next grouping of changes when it comes to items are kind of like our tank items, Ro. As our resident solo laner here, talking about what's going on.
Here's my bias.
Dude, why are
we just have some underbought tank items. When we're looking at the data, we can see
Void Shield is not underbought.
Players have bought these items, and we looked at their power potential. We have math in place to measure cost versus power, and some of these items needed to be adjusted.
The best junglers with this: Fenrir, Hercules, Hunbots with Aspect.
An active item, so you just press it whenever you want that shield. Up in protections, and the damage and the Mordred shield that you get up in from 80% to 100% of your protections. So like kind of a double buff there.
The rest of them are fine.
Right, next up, Mystical Mail is going to be
Voidstone and ADC.
Decrease in cost, just underbought. So.
Again,
you want intelligence?
And also, I felt like it was a little. Its cost was out of place for where that item is really useful.
Oh yeah. This item is actually broken.
And things like that. 2650 kind of.
200 health, 50 procs, 30 strength is crazy.
Bringing it down in cost without changing any of the stats. Just
the rest of the buffs are fine. I think Glorious Pridwin might be a little strong. Right, the shield being 100% of your protections is pretty insane.
Void Shield, both getting buffs.
Dude, if they gut Hunters though, we're actually fucked.
Call out anything?
If they gut Hunters, the game is ruined.
Well,
I'm not trolling.
I'll call out that I think these are pretty strong buffs, but it's kind of on purpose. Sometimes we'll do balance shifts to just force a shift in a meta, right? If an item isn't being
the rest like
and therefore.
I mean, it's interesting. We'll see. It's interesting. We'll see. It's interesting. We'll see. Broken. Literally a game, like Smite as a game, defining item now.
That just won't get a lot of play because those items aren't good. So we're making them quite good. These are some big buffs.
Cool. And then last up, Shield Splitter, one of my favorite new items to Smite 2, just because I love the theming on it.
Yeah.
Just getting a strict cost decrease buff.
Yeah, I think this one was.
I don't think Void Stone or Shield are really support items.
Damage. You don't need to buy it against shields. Obviously, it's especially good if you're against a shield god. But 2450 for a little bit of strength, your prots, it's a great first item in lane.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that wraps it up for items.
Hawk's already typing in the Discord about Reaver.
Next. And first up. Yes, Aladdin is on the docket. He's going to be getting a round of nerfs here. I've seen people in chat asking about it already.
We've heard your wishes.
We've heard your wishes. So let's talk about Aladdin, Rogue. Big round of nerfs here.
It's everything across the board, right? And that's what we did here from the community. He was just kind of open
probably good.
The board. And this is might be the fourth round, maybe the third.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, so Genie's Lamp.
Probably good.
Quote-unquote free stacks. It is taking up an item slot.
I'm just going to go through these quickly. Genie losing 5% stats in the late game is just a good nerf at all points of the game for Aladdin. Sultan's Grace now scaling at 10% less strength, 10% less intelligence, and also doing slightly less base damage. Also, the low health bonus damage is decreased also. So it used to have like an almost execute threshold where you couldn't see it, but you would do more damage than you normally would because of this extra damage. The cooldown is also up to 14 seconds, so his survivability is going to be down. His agile run damage is also going down, really only on the back end, so this nerf isn't really too much. The base damage from Genie is also dropping a good amount, and the scaling is dropping a good amount. Into the Lamp, the self-heal at all ranks is now only 60%, which is a pretty big nerf, especially to the late game. This was part of the reason he was unboxable late game. And then on top of that, lastly, Into the Lamp sees a small cooldown shift. Part of the issue, I mean, this is really good. His damage is going to be a lot lower. Across the board, he's going to be easier to deal with. He still is just super difficult to play against because of his wishes. Lamp giving free stats is still just broken because it makes it so he becomes full build at 5 items and then he starts stacking 3k pots. Imagine an ADC had an item that just, or like a slotted in item that just gave them an extra 10% strength or 10% attack speed. So like every attack speed item they bought was just more valuable. It's broken. They get to their 3k pots faster. It's insane how valuable Genie's Lamp was. Yeah, but that gold spooling has nothing on Genie's Lamp taking up an item.
A shift. Let's talk about Zeus.
This is what I said.
This is one of those ones where it's like, when we look at our data and we listen to our players like playing Zeus in the range carry role and having quite a lot of success, but when they play it in mid, for example, they're having much less success. So I think we're going to see this quite often going forward in our balance, where we do a shift to try to buff the god in one role and nerf it in the other, just because we have such viability
that is
in every role for a lot of different gods in Smite 2 now. It is difficult to balance, but this is an attempt at that. So overall, the vibe you'll see here is reductions.
Realistically, this is a good shift for Zeus.
Carry role, and
this is a good shift for Zeus.
Like
I'm a big fan of this one.
Abilities.
Cool. All right. So
I think this is a good change. Or good shift, I should say.
Increase. That's hard to say.
Giving him a little extra int also. The problem is, though,
15%.
the gods aren't the issue.
Decreasing
Zeus's intelligence is not the issue.
For the mid
on that ability.
The issue is how weak intelligence items are across the board.
Decreasing the attack speed buff, again, kind of targeting that carry Zeus role that we saw so prominently. Shout out to Tegvir. Played it really well at Vegas.
Crazy.
Shout out Tegvir.
Crazy plays.
Go.
Detonate charge, we're going to be decreasing the damage, but increasing the damage scaling. So base damage going down, scaling going up.
Better
so if you're playing a lot of intelligence,
And that is that per stack as well on Detonate?
They did not really buff the mage items at all.
And then last but not least, Lightning Storm. We're going to be increasing the damage scaling per tick from 55% int to 65% int. So 10% scaling buff is pretty prominent.
Yeah, and again, per tick, so that ends up being quite a lot of damage if you have quite a lot of int.
What is Zeus, like 5 or 6 ticks? I forget.
Well, if you can keep
5.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Medusa, going to be seeing some nerfs. Got a round of nerfs already, but
why are we nerfing acid spray?
Talk to me about Medusa.
Yeah, we were talking about Medusa a lot after Vegas, in comparison to gods like Jingwei.
The only way this is a nerf.
Kind of loop them in together.
So they were they were grouped together after Vegas.
Bro,
looked at their stats and
what are these nerfs? Why are we nerfing Jingwei 1, man? By decreasing the tick damage. The problem isn't the tick damage.
Medusa acid spray.
The problem is how much damage it does when it's placed underneath you and you walk over it. That's the problem. A 1 second nerf and the tick damage dropping is irrelevant. Bolts getting decreased damage is relevant. This is a somewhat relevant change, but it's not relevant enough.
Cooldown, and then explosive bolts increasing the cooldown and decreasing.
Also, this Medusa nerf is also nothing. This is her worst ability.
I mean, that's a big
the only way this is actually a good nerf to Medusa is if this stops her from clearing wave. If she doesn't one-shot archers. That's the only thing I can think. But I see most Medusas just maxing 1 now because they don't care about clear. They just want to one-shot you. I mean, and this is like an okay nerf.
And then she'd really come online late and be really, really strong. And she was quite safe, so she could get there quite often. In Smite 2, we've seen, at least at Vegas and recent ranked data, that she's just quite good early game as well. So we wanted to bring down her clear thanks to that. And then the explosive bolts kind of addresses the viral clips we've seen of the 2,000 plus crits. So,
I will say though,
all right, moving right along.
This being 60 damage late game, it was insane for like objectives and for doing your buffs, but it's still just not a relevant buff.
Again, our resident solo laner, talk to us about Ama.
Another one where we're trying to buff the underplayed gods that we're seeing in our data. So just overall buffing what her strongest identity is. So her attack speed, she's a great attack speed stim warrior. So buffing her base attack speed also helps any percentage increase attack speed she gets. So it's actually kind of multiplicative in a way. And then the damage reduction.
What the fuck?
So if you want to go that hybrid or even full int,
bro,
build,
this buff
quite a lot of damage reduction when you pop the 2. So yeah, from 0.97
with also like void shield getting buffed.
Increase is obviously great at level 1.
This makes it so like you don't need to itemize like 4 attack speed items.
Increasing that overall attack.
And this 7% int
damage reduction
is actually relevant.
Actually scale up to be quite high. If
I think
like a Book of Thoth or something.
For sure. Yeah, I think we saw
3K int pots on Ama are so good because of this too.
On her, coming up next, carry roll. You know, Jingwei, Medusa,
finally relevant buffs to on her too in the early game. The late game was fine. This was an issue.
About Jingwei, like I said, for weaker in the early game is intense, stronger in the late game is intense.
And this is a good buff too, also to his Desert Fury.
Bully in the lane phase, he wants to jump on you and impale, but he's kind of just struggling to clear the wave, especially compared to a god like Jing. So again, bringing them closer together. Building on their identities as early game versus late game. So bringing up the damage on Impale will help them clear the wave finally. And then we really want to encourage people to aim that last hit of the ultimate as well. So increasing the final damage of the ultimate by quite a bit here, from 290 and 100% strength to
keep in mind
15% strength.
It scales at 115% strength.
Hard to hit, but
so that final on her ult, if you have crit, will be a Jingwei 2 hitting you.
And then aspect of the pride. We haven't seen, we haven't seen this one get too much play yet, and we just kind of want to experiment with just like these. We would have never done this in Smite 1.
This, I mean, this critting is.
I mean, we obviously didn't have the technology.
Kind of relevant.
Decreasing the max attack.
It's hard to get like to super high strength.
From 100% to 60%. 100%
so
felt great.
This should just feel like a like an auto attack mostly. Maybe it's slightly lower or slightly higher.
Yeah.
But this is this is an exciting change.
How's it gonna go?
Exciting is good.
We'll see.
That's right. So I'm excited. As soon as this one goes live, I'll be watching. To see what they can build.
For sure.
I am worried about this Cabrakan buff.
My favorite gods to watch. So definitely curious to see what people cook up with the builds for this aspect.
I guess the other issue also is on her one.
Up next,
he just becomes a really good crit character.
You ran point on Cabrakan for Smite 2. So talk to us about how we've seen Cabrakan once he kind of hit the battleground. Underperforming a little bit, It's the same story from Smite 1, right, Kilgoon?
Yeah, dude. Like, we're just doomed.
This is not okay.
Cabrakan in an undertuned state, and then everybody's like, "This god's awful."
This is not okay.
And we just keep buffing him and buffing him and buffing him, and then
this is better than Hercules early game. Hercules pops 3, gets 20 protections. Cabrakan now gets 25 protections at level 1.
What we're actually doing.
Yeah.
This is the ability max first.
Point on Cabrakan and
I think Cab is fine now. I don't know about good, but like these weren't needed.
People weren't very happy with me, so I was like, all right, I'll nerf him. There was at one point he had,
he also is a strength character. Unless I'm reading this wrong, I'm pretty sure he's a strength character now.
And then once he went live, obviously it didn't.
75 strength on the 1 on top of your auto.
Well, that will help him too.
Your 2 auto attack canceling with strength also.
We're buffing pretty much all of it. Incrementally is what we're trying to do for each ability, but all abilities at once. So damage scaling will really reward you when you're the Cabrakan jungle. That's not any base damage buffs, but the cooldown will help a lot, and that's on Seismic Crush, which is his 1. Refraction Shield will count for both of his shields.
So the enhanced version as well.
Correct.
Cool.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And they each have their own cooldown, so you can use them both. So 5% in on each one of those. Enhanced Alien, we can see it's different.
Death Metal Cab,
but they are both being buffed.
I mean, you probably could just play hybrid Cab with Death Metal and Deathbringer, and if you get a crit with your 1, you just one-shot.
So you can kind of pick your build if you're.
And even if you're getting hit, late game you're getting 45 protections for I guess late game it's a little bit different because it's not instantly getting 45.
Putting it back in line with Smite 1 numbers because I think I remember reducing those during playtests. Tremors as well, getting just an overall buff, just small ones, and then we want to encourage people to be able to actually refire that 3 rather than just cancel it, so we're increasing the strength scaling on that one too.
I wish the refire was just like a fraction of a second faster, because I always go to fire it right as they're leaving my circle, and then they're gone, and I'm just like, I hit.
You got to just be a little bit more preemptive now.
Yeah. I'm not good at planning ahead. I'm just like last minute. Oh God, I should refire. Oh no, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, no, we also a little known fact is that one actually hits towers as well. And it is written in the description, but yeah, you can use that. He is the mountain destroyer, so you can go down and break some towers with your refire.
I did not know that. Yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, and then another buff on his 4th ability, Tectonic Shift. overall scaling buff. So regardless of the type of build you go, at least if you build damage, you'll deal more damage.
Cool. All right, and then I believe last up on the list for god changes, we have Vulcan, the newest addition to the, well, not the newest addition. We had Hunt Bats. I forgot he released early, but one of the newer additions in OB2.
I don't remember what thermal mod is.
Here, Ro, talk to us about Vulcan.
Yeah, he's a fun one. You know, we've talked about how.
Is this the one that buffs his 1 and his 3?
We've got the aspects as well, which you can push them into more roles. Vulcan's got all of these different mods that can change his playstyle in multiple different ways.
This is a good nerf to Masterwork mod, but I do think it just becomes irrelevant. Now you're just going to go the 2-turret mod.
To try to make them all viable in their own niche ways. So increasing the damage of the thermal mod, decreasing the protection.
So they're just nerfing solo lane Vulcan.
We don't have many shared protections in SMITE 2, and in SMITE 1 we had things like Thebes and more than that. So it was quite powerful being at those numbers, so we reduced those on the top end quite a bit. Earthshaker, just more scaling. We want to reward people if they hit the big ultimates. That's always a fun moment as Vulcan. And then Aspect of Fortification, that's the one that he shares his protections or gains protections from being near his turrets. 2 per level was a little bit much, so 1.5 is what we're going to do with. 1.5 is a little awkward because you won't always see it on your UI because it always rounds up or down, but you are always getting the 1.5, yeah.